Maybe you've seen every episode of Demon Slayer, or have read every chapter of the manga. Either way, unless you understand why Nezuko being a demon ruins Demon Slayer, you should probably keep watching this video until you do. First off, can Nezuko even really be considered a demon? I mean, sure, like many others, she was turned into a demon by Kimetsu Muzan. But when you realize how different she is from every other demon, it'll feel more accurate to call her a devil instead of a demon. Muzan thought she was dead. If you didn't know, Muzan didn't attack Tanjiro's family for some kind of late night snack. Because of their family's ancient connection to the original demon-slaying breathing style, sun breathing, he was hoping that as demons, they'd be able to achieve his dream of being immune to sunlight. But for as old as he is, at 1,000 years old, Muzan is very impatient. He could have easily turned the entire Kamado family into normal demons if he wanted to. But because he was in such a rush to beat the sun, instead of letting them grow at a normal pace, he gave each of them an extreme amount of his blood. Not even the Upper Moon 6 demons have been directly created by Muzan. And the only time he ever gives a surplus of blood is when he wants to create an incredibly powerful demon. But when none of them survived being injected by his poisoned blood, he left. Except, Nezuko wasn't dead. What's even weirder is that Tanjiro was able to tell that she was still living when Muzan couldn't. We are talking about the guy who could sense each Hashira while they were spread across a mountain. The creature that could sense several demon slayers regaining consciousness while he was a great distance away. Suffice to say, Nezuko completely defies Muzan's senses, along with pretty much every rule about demons in the series. You see, Muzan is often referred to as the king of demons. But kings can be betrayed and usurped, not Muzan. When it comes to his demons, he's more like a god. He can take complete control of their bodies, has complete access to their memories upon absorption, demon power nullification, telepathy, can inflict pain onto a demon just by saying their name. He can kill a demon at will, and if any demon says his name aloud, no matter their intent, they die instantly. But let me ask you this, what's a god to a non-believer? Because as far as we know, none of these things apply to Nezuko. Muzan has admitted to having no access to her at all. That's not normal. The only reason this was ever the case for Tamayo was because after his fight against Yoriichi, Muzan's connection to her was severed. But it gets even weirder. As a demon, Nezuko lost her human intelligence and was instead as smart and loyal as a good dog. But at the same time, she also possessed stronger memories of her human life than any other demon. Most surprisingly of all, Nezuko doesn't need to eat humans to regain her strength. In fact, she's the only demon that can resist eating humans despite being hungry. Instead of eating flesh and blood, all she needs is sleep. And that's important for later, so don't forget. Now, it's no secret that Nezuko has the ability to change her size at will. For the most part, all demons have some sort of unique trait. But the real secret is that that sort of thing usually develops after they've gained enough strength by consuming many humans or assimilating more of Muzan's blood. Nezuko had a special ability from the very beginning. Not only that, but her growth had nothing to do with eating humans or Muzan's blood. Nezuko is the only demon to have ever grown in power without these things. In fact, her rate of growth is absolutely terrifying. Nezuko has never undergone training a day in her life. As a human, Nezuko was never a martial artist like Akuza or a demon slayer like Kokushibo. But in every single one of her fights, Nezuko experiences some sort of exponential power-up. At base, Nezuko didn't seem to be anything special. In fact, she actually seems pretty weak. The temple demon easily overpowered her, and she seemed to be in a lot of pain, even though none of his hits were brutal at all. But then again, this guy was a grown man before being turned into a demon. He had a weaker version of Daki's hair control, and had eaten a good number of people by then. The fact that he couldn't tear straight through her, while she could easily knock his head off, is a clear indication that Nezuko's strength was already above average. Against the swamp demon, Nezuko was already too fast for him to hit her. Meanwhile, she easily knocked him around. But notice how at this point, Nezuko's regeneration is extremely low. Even a shallow scratch on her head took a while to heal. That's unheard of for a demon. At first, playing kickball with Susamuru resulted in Nezuko's leg being blown off. But after regenerating the entire limb in a few seconds, Nezuko would go from that to eventually matching, and later, even overpowering the demon whose entire fighting style was based on this. Against Rui, a demon that completely dismantled her fighting style at the time, Nezuko managed to unlock her blood demon art, which only high-level demons are supposed to have. And even then, Nezuko's was unlike any other. With it, she could turn her blood into an absolute inferno of pink flames. But what's even crazier is that these flames only bring harm to demons. Humans and environments are left completely unharmed. It can even cancel out their demon abilities. Nezuko is the only demon besides Muzan with an innate counter-demon ability. Even an upper moon like Daki couldn't totally heal from it without the assistance of her brother's greater healing. Speaking of which, at first, Nezuko didn't seem to be on Daki's level. In reality, Nezuko, for as powerful as she was, had always held back for the sake of humans. But once she entered her full demon form, her strength and regeneration capabilities were already upper rank level. Back then, she was too feral to control herself. But when the time came for her to fight alongside her brother and the Hashira against upper rank 4 Hantengu, Nezuko had complete control over herself in this form. And that is without a single fight between the two events. Early on, Nezuko's healing was slow compared to others. But eventually, she became able to reattach severed limbs thanks to her blood manipulation and could even use them as weapons before connecting. And now, if you're still wondering why Nezuko being a demon ruins Demon Slayer, here's the answer. She's too strong! As a demon, Nezuko breaks the story of Demon Slayer. Think about it. It took her 5 fights to become a high-level demon. 2 fights later, and she was already upper moon level. Go back to every major fight in Demon Slayer you can think of. Despite being a main cast member, Nezuko probably wasn't there for the main event. Even after treating Daki like a ragdoll, instead of including Nezuko in the later events of the fight against Gyutaro, she was pacified and removed from the story until it was all over, where she saved everyone's lives. If Nezuko was there when Rengoku was fighting Akaza, the Flame Hashira would have still been alive. In fact, despite it being the epic conclusion to the entire series, Nezuko didn't fight at all during the final arc. Sure, she was turning back into a human at the time, and Muzan wanted to absorb her, but it's not like that's the only way the story could have been told. In reality, if you add Nezuko into the mix, most of the Hashira would have probably survived. Not even the second strongest demon slayer of all time turned Upper Moon 1 Kokoshibo would have been able to damage her. At that point, Nezuko was already immune to sunlight, so something like Kokoshibo's Nichiren sword wouldn't be able to permanently kill her. And even if he sliced her to bits, her hyper regeneration and blood manipulation would be too much to handle, and she'd only get stronger as time went on. After that, even ignoring the fact that more demon slayers would have survived and been in much better shape, even Muzan would struggle against Nezuko. Not only would her growth rate likely exceed his point of power, especially thanks to his abilities being weakened by Tamayo's poison, he wouldn't really be able to deal with her to begin with. Sure, he could destroy the cells of a demon at will, but that doesn't apply to a demon like Nezuko, whom he has no control over. Even Muzan's fighting style is completely countered by Nezuko's. In his battle form, Muzan extends his body to sprout these terrifying tendrils of pain. They're strong, sharp, poisonous, omnidirectional, can be widened, and can be as long as 32 feet. All of which being incredibly dangerous to humans and absolutely pointless against Nezuko. Cutting her does nothing, and injecting his blood into her might just make Nezuko even stronger. Even if his poison could work, as we've seen from her saving of Inosuke and the Sound Hashira Tengen Uzui, Nezuko's flames, which she could casually use at will, remove demon poison effects. If it weren't for her need to sleep, and she was actually allowed to train or even go on more missions, Nezuko would have been even stronger than Muzan by the end of Season 1. Muzan thought that by turning the Kamado family into demons, he was creating the cure to his affliction, when actually, he was creating his evolution. After conquering the sun, Nezuko began speaking again. Not only was she gradually becoming more physically capable, but even her intelligence was increasing at an unfathomable rate. Don't make the mistake of overlooking this. In the span of just a few months, Nezuko went from the intelligence of a household pet to a 3-year-old child. Maybe that's not so impressive to some of you, but understand that it took evolution around 6 million years to make the same kind of leap in humans. In just a few months, Nezuko was already approaching the threshold of power that had taken Muzan 1,000 years. And you know what? If Nezuko hadn't been cured, she probably could have started her very own demon horde. I say this because demons with a sufficient amount of Muzan's blood, such as Kokoshibo, Doma, or Akaza, could turn humans into demons too. But this was more like a recruitment program for the cult of Muzan. Tamayo is another demon like Nezuko that is detached from Muzan's control. And when she turned Yushiro into a demon, he had no connection to Muzan whatsoever. Actually, I don't think Muzan has ever even seen Yushiro. But speaking of Tamayo, maybe you think I've overlooked something. After all, even though she wasn't under Muzan's control like the others, when he absorbed her, he had complete access to her memories. So couldn't he just absorb Nezuko? That was his plan after all. Well, unfortunately for the King of Pop, that probably wouldn't go so well. Again, unlike Tamayo, whose connection to Muzan was only severed after he was torn apart by Yuichi Tsujikuni, Nezuko was never under his control. And even then, Tamayo could still harbor resentment and uncooperation towards Muzan despite being a part of him. Absorbing Nezuko would give Muzan an eternally upset stomach at best and an overriding parasite at worst. There's also the possibility that Nezuko was always immune to the sun. They just never knew because they never tried. Just look at Demon King Tanjiro. The sun cooked him like bacon for a few seconds before he suddenly developed immunity. And as an especially strong demon like Akaza, Kokoshibo, and Muzan, Nezuko should be able to survive even if her head is cut off. With that, Nezuko as a demon has no weaknesses. Way back when the Demon Slayer manga just ended, we made a video debating which character is stronger, Demon Tanjiro or Demon Nezuko. Thousands of you guys couldn't understand how Nezuko could possibly be stronger than Muzan's successor. But just like Nezuko has all the right tools to destroy Muzan, she has everything she needs to dismantle a Demon Tanjiro. Fights between demons don't usually go anywhere. The only reason Kokoshibo was so feared by Akaza, while Doma couldn't phase him, was because he had a Demon Slayer sword and techniques that could actually kill him. But even if we assume Demon Tanjiro could develop enough intelligence to use breathing styles, not even a red Nichiren blade could harm a demon that's immune to the sun. Meanwhile, Nezuko's blood demon art has nothing to do with the sun, but is able to counter the regeneration of other demons. And if you think Tanjiro's blood demon art will bail him out, think again. His shockwave energy blast could tear apart the ground with ease. But even in this crazed and frenzied state, Tanjiro has a difficult time bringing harm to Nezuko. Nezuko was able to place her hand directly in front of Tanjiro's mouth as he used the attack. And all it did was tear some of her fingernails off. And that's her as a human. Guys, please share this video with anyone who ever doubts Nezuko's potential and doesn't understand why Nezuko being a demon ruins Demon Slayer. You can check out our video on the Kamado family secret to understand even more.